Step into the captivating world of the Behind the Curtain podcast, where your dynamic hosts, John Dyer and Dr. Mohamed Saleh, bring together a wealth of 60 years of combined experience in healthcare and manufacturing. Join us every week as we delve into intriguing topics, weaving unscripted conversations that promise to take you on an unpredictable and enlightening journey. Gain valuable insights for your continuous improvement adventure as we navigate uncharted territories with enthusiasm and expertise. Welcome to a podcast that goes beyond the ordinary, unraveling the mysteries behind the curtain of knowledge.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Curtain. I'm one of your co-hosts, Mohamed Saleh, and with me is my other co-host, John Dyer. Hello, John.
How you doing?
Awesome. So we've had an amazing time talking about the change domain in our last few episodes. We started the change domain talking about the importance of resistance to change and change fatigue in organizations as organizations are embarking on change. The second thing we talked about is their appetite for learning and training, and the approach used, how that impacts change in an organization. And then we ended that domain on leadership characteristic. And we expanded on leadership characteristic because it's such a critical ingredient to allowing for change that we went into 10 different types of leadership characteristics that are needed for effective change. So in today's episode, we're kind of doing a recap of those last 10 episodes, talking about those 10 leadership characteristics. And so why don't we just start with you, and maybe you could call off the first one and we'll go through them.
Yeah, and I think too, in today's episode, we're going to also talk a little bit about how they intertwine.
Yes.
Because, they're not, you can't look at them separately. You got to look at them, how do they relate to each other? So the first one was selfless leader. Again, that's, how do we put others first before ourselves, before our own needs? Because it's all about the team being successful, not just the leader being successful.
I love that. Yeah, the whole team over self standpoint.
Yeah.
The second one we talked about was a leader needs to be Gemba focused. And we really dove into management on-site versus management oversight, and the importance of presence, but there to be able to help support and serve those that you lead, not be there to scrutinize.
Okay. And then the third one was respect for people. Again, everybody who works in the organization has their own dreams, their own likes, their own desires, and it's important for us to be able to relate to others. And the only way to do that is to respect them, get to know them, get to know their families. Where do they want to be in 5 years? Help them develop, and you've got to have respect for others in order to be able to do those kinds of things.
Absolutely, and this is such an important topic in the change world, that making sure that for respect for people, that there's the conditions of certain behaviors that people demonstrate, having people's back and creating that win-win scenario, and constantly stretching and growing people, which leads us to our fourth characteristic, which is, as a leader yourself, in order to help lead change, you yourself have to be open to continuous learning and self-development. And a lot of times we're caught up in the cogwheel that we really don't have time to pause and say, can I challenge my own status quo? Can I learn something new? Am I open-minded enough to actually change my own mold? And the more experience people have, the harder that is. But it is an important characteristic for change, because you can't tell people to change if you can't do it yourself.
Yeah. We don't know what we don't know.
Oh.
And the only way to get to, expand your horizons is to be exposed to new things. But you're right. There's another side to all that is that if we expect the organization to continuously learn and grow, the leaders have to show the way. Yeah. They have to be willing to put themselves out there, because I tell you, every time I've taught classes, if there is an executive in the training room and people walk in and say, wow, so-and-so is here. Okay, I was just going to kind of blow this off. I was just going to sleep through the whole thing. But man, if they are taking this seriously, maybe this is important for us to learn too.
Yeah.
So it's really important that the leaders are engaged. The next one was seeing the vision, coming up with a pathway. Where are you headed as an organization? Because again, without a vision, you're just going to become stagnant. You're just trying to get through the day-to-day stuff. You're not moving forward. And companies and any organizations that become stagnant will slowly deteriorate. And the more you deteriorate, the faster that becomes, to the point where you're no longer relevant as an organization. So yeah, if you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards. And the only way to move forward is to have a vision, a path that you're going to go on.
Yeah, and people sometimes underestimate the importance of this characteristics in leading change. But if you don't have that vision, it's really hard to get mobilized and everyone excited around the purpose of where you're going. And so I think it's one of the main ingredients if you want change is people have to be able to have with clarity a vision, because that really allows them for the next characteristic to be more of a strategic thinker. And we talked about it in two different episodes, but to be a strategic thinker, which is characteristic number 6, will really help you bring and formulate that vision to life. And so being able to say, you know what, here's where I need to go and how I'm going to do it and how am I going to get there? Because sometimes the tactics could change. But if we're so focused on the tactics or so focused on the short-term wins, we lose sight of that vision. And so, but as long as we have the vision and our tactics fail, that's okay, because we could experiment and try things new. But unfortunately, too many organizations are caught in the now and not the where, which is a symptom of not really seeing the vision.
Yeah, so many organizations will take a little bit of time sometime during the year to create a vision
Mhm.
and then put that on the shelf and not do anything with it. Well, guess what? That's meaningless, because if you don't act on the vision, the old saying that a vision without action is just merely a dream.
Yeah.
But the action's the hard part, right? It's easy to come up with a vision. It's easy to dream. It's easy to say, hey, yeah, in 5 years or 3 years, we want to be this. The tough part is coming up with the plan, coming up with the strategy, and then turning that strategy into actionable items, and then measuring yourself to how well those actions are being implemented.
Yeah.
And those should be as important measurements as the KPIs in the organization. So yeah, if you don't turn the vision into action, then it's just a waste of time.
100%.
Which takes us to the next one, which is effective decision making, right? Leaders need to be able to make decisions, because again, what's one tactic to avoid making change? Well, you keep putting off a decision longer and longer and longer, and then eventually hoping that everybody will forget about it, or that the leader gets promoted or changes jobs before they actually have to make that tough decision. Because once you've made that decision, then you've put into action a whole series of events, and some of which you can't go back on. So there is a bit of a leap of faith. But, Dr. Deming talked a lot about the need to drive out fear. Well, the fear of actually taking action or making a tough decision has to be, done away with in order for change to really be effective.
Yeah. Well said. The next one, which is a characteristic that sounds easy, but it's actually extremely hard to pull off, is empathy. I would consider that's one of the most underrated characteristics, but it's probably one of the more important ones when it comes to change. Being able to be humanistic and genuine, and being able to get and understand how that person feels from their reality, and go in there and become part of the struggle that they're going through and help them out, is required in change. Because some of the things that we might be deploying in an organization, yes, it's a huge win, But if we don't have empathy towards those that we're deploying it to, and we don't understand the reality, and we don't understand how they feel about this, and we don't give them a voice to speak up, it could be very detrimental. So I would say a very important characteristic for change is empathy.
Yeah, and again, for those leaders who are either not good at interfacing with others, or they're introverts, or they just don't want to deal with other people, then those are the people who never go out on the shop floor or never walk around the halls of a hospital to talk to the nurses, because it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind,
100%.
right? And that's why, again, when we get to the how these interface with each other, interact with each other, going to the Gemba. Well, guess what? Going to the Gemba means you've got to actually walk the process and talk to people and get to know the people, and then show some empathy, because they're going to probably dump their problems on you. As the leader, they're going to be, especially if you haven't talked to them for a while, they're going to be like, oh man, I'm having a horrible day because of this, this, and this. And you've got to figure out, all right, how do I listen? How do I write those things down? How do I, make it clear that I'm here to help. And a lot of leaders, avoid that, and that's why they don't go to the Gemba.
Yep, yep, 100%. Couldn't agree
All
more.
right. The next one is being a good problem solver, and helping the team, by mentoring that team, coaching that team, giving the team the data they need to be successful, giving them the tools they need to be successful, giving them the time to help actually solve the problem. So, not only does the leader need to be a good problem solver, but they need to be able to mentor the teams and help them be good problem solvers.
Yeah, this gets into the heart of being resilient as an organization, because the most, I would say, crucial ingredient for a problem solver is the choreography of the scientific method, and being able to live it so that you could teach it just through observation, through practice, through try-storming, but being able to constantly stick to that choreography as a problem solver, I think, is critical for change. A lot of times where, a problem solver here does not mean be the firefighter. And it does not mean be out there being the hero of the story. Problem solver here is really teaching that choreography. And but you have to role model it first. So you can't react to symptoms. You have to get to root causes. You yourself have to show that you're a problem solver and getting to the roots of the problem, which takes us to characteristic number 10, which is coaching and developing others. We talked about it with the choreography right now, but just how do you embody all of these characteristics so that your primary characteristics through change is to coach those around you and to develop those around you. Such a, I would say, probably one of the hardest behaviors to do is to teach, coach, and mentor, and to the point where it's a character that is required of a leader, an effective leader in the journey of change.
Yeah, just a few days ago, I taught a class on process improvement and leadership to a group of pastors. And these pastors are representing pretty good sized churches, multi-million-dollar budget type churches. And we were going through, the different leadership styles and characteristics, and coaching was one of the things that we discussed. And it was like a big light bulb went off with one of these pastors, and it was great. She just basically said, hey, it's not about the success of us. It's about the success of our teams.
Yeah.
Of the volunteers, of the staff, of all the people who are working together to make these things happen. And this was the big light bulb for her. She's like, maybe we should stop measuring the success of us as individuals, and maybe our bonuses and pay and ability to get promoted and those kinds of things within the church should be based on how well our teams are performing. And it was like, yeah, ding, 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 ding. That's exactly right. When we can start to shift the focus away from the individuals and to the teams, well, guess what? Managers become leaders, and then leaders become coaches. And it's not about the success of the individual, but the success of the team. And good coaches know that it's all about winning, and it's all about how well the team performs. And that's a reflection on them, not how well they perform as an individual.
Yep. Yep. 100%, 100%. And if you're in a situation in an organization and you have no successors, it doesn't matter what kind of superhero you are. There's an issue because you can't really lead people through change unless you've invested your entire purpose around coaching and developing those around you to be not just versions of you, to be better versions of you. So these 10 are not standalone characteristics. These 10 are intertwined in many ways, actually. We're going to talk about some of the relationships that are intertwined that kind of stood out to us. But even outside of our conversation, I think there's other ways that you could even slice and dice these and intertwine them. So it's hard to say which one's more important, because if you miss a few of them, it actually will hinder change. I think all 10 are required, but there is a relationship for them. So what relationship did you see so far kind of pop up for you?
Yeah, the first one that really stands out is if you take characteristic, the selfless leader, respect for people, empathy for others, and coaching. Those four are very much interrelated, right?
Yeah.
Before you even realize the importance of coaching, you first have to be selfless, because you're now shifting the power from you as an individual to the team.
Mhm.
And you have to be willing to give up that power for the team to actually be empowered to make change happen. And the only way to do that is to respect the people that you're working with, right? If you don't respect them, you're not going to share your power with those other folks. And then empathy. Well, guess what? The best way to develop respect is to put yourself into the shoes of the other folks that you're working with. Get to know them, find out what their likes and dislikes are, what their dreams are, what's going on in their family lives, and that may explain why they behave a certain way. And then you start to realize that, what, again, it's the old Dr. Deming saying, a bad system will beat good people down every time. Well, you probably have a lot of really, really good people, but because you haven't taken the time to get to know them, you only see, their bad sides, their gripes, their dislikes, because they're in a broken system. Well, how do you get out of a broken system? You got to make change happen. And that's, when you need the teams and you need to get involved. So you can see how these things all come around. So those four in particular are very much interrelated.
Yeah. There's another one that kind of pops up as a relation, but before I go into there, the more I'm listening to you speak about those four, the more I could see even continuous learning and self-development fit in that, because it requires you to be at a stance, to have empathy, that you're willing to learn something different. Someone who's not willing to have self-development or continuous learning really struggles with empathy, because they don't see that this is a continuous learning. For me to understand John's reality, I need to be able to listen and learn from John's reality, even if it contradicts something I know. And if I'm able to get through that and continuously learn through that, I actually could have empathy then for you. And that way I would be able to show you respect. So very awesome, because these are all things that relate to others. The other one that pops up is being a problem solver can't happen without being in the Gemba. So I would say leadership characteristic number 2 and number 9, Gemba Focus leader and a problem solving, I think have a very strong relationship with one another, because we don't go off hearsay. And so to be a problem solver, you have to get facts, you have to be at the Gemba. And so I think those two are also very closely interlined. They both require presence.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got time for one more. I think another one that, another set of characteristics that are interrelated is seeing the vision, and strategic thinking and effective decision making, right? Those three really go hand in hand. And again, it goes back to the saying that that we've discussed a little bit in the past about how, a vision without action is merely a dream. Action without a vision just passes the time. Vision with action can change the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to come up with a vision. You got to come up with a strategy, and then you've got to put that into action, which requires a lot of effective decision making, because it's not going to go smoothly. You're going to run into roadblocks. You're going to run into unknowns. And you, as a leader, you've got to be able to help the organization navigate around those roadblocks and deal with those unknowns that pop up. And if you're not ready to do that, then all three of those will fail.
100%, 100%. So as we kind of close here, in the domain of change, there's 10 leadership characteristics that we discussed. We talked about selfless leader, Gemba focus, respect for people. We talked about continuous learning and self-development. We dove into seeing the vision, strategic thinker, and effective decision maker. And we ended with empathy, problem solver, and coaching. Some of these are 2 episodes long. Some of them are 1 episode long. So if anyone that's listening to this right now or watching this, please go back and watch if you want to dive deep into any of those characteristics. Again, they're not standalone characteristics. They're all intertwined. So you really need to go through all of them to understand the characteristics that are needed for change. But what a powerful thing a leader could equip themselves with if they're able to embody and reflect on these characteristics.
Absolutely. All right, very good. Well, next episode, we'll shift gears and start talking about the organizational structure and how that impacts all of this.
Yeah, we'll dive into intrinsic factors, and you'll know more once you come and see our next episode. All right, take care.
Thanks,
John.
everybody.
Take care, everyone.
As we draw the curtains on another fascinating episode, we wanted to express our gratitude for joining us on this enlightening journey. If you're hungry for more captivating and thought-provoking discussions with John Dyer and Dr. Mohamed Saleh, hit that subscribe button to ensure you don't miss a beat. Until next week, keep exploring, stay inquisitive, and stay inspired. See you on the next Behind the Curtain adventure.